let's give the floor to Petri Rajaniemi.
Thank you. And greetings from the forever beautiful Eastern Pasila of Helsinki. The one thing that seems to define the world 2022 is enormous pressure, what we have all lived through. We thought we had all seen everything for the past 2 years, but then all of a sudden the world went completely crazy. It brought about a plethora of emotions, such as suspicion, fear, anger, agitation, fortunately also compassion. But most of all, it brought about a sense of sadness over the state of the world, and most definitely a feeling of cluelessness, where you find yourself asking the question, what happens in the future? What do we have to do now? And just as people, companies are now facing uncertainty on a whole new level. But the turmoil, it surely didn't come as a surprise. We all saw what happened with democracies, elections, inequality, the polarization of societies, and we also saw the aforementioned emotions, how they dominated the world of social media for the past 10 years. I strongly feel that for the past decade, we are all guilty of crimes against compassion online. And corporate citizens, we are not innocent bystanders. We are very active players in this game. No matter what we try to convince ourselves of, we do form the way the world feels. For the past decade, I feel that businesses have been living in a divide and conquer culture. The kind of culture where it was clear that if you fan the flames for profit, it will eventually pay off. The biggest buzzwords in marketing for the past years have been words like tribes, revolution, and overall us versus them mentality. This has brought with it marketing from companies that seem to have the one purpose of polarizing everything. The culture wars. Many companies saw the culture wars as an opportunity to grow not only loyal, but a fierce customer base, a group of people who are willing and able to go online to fight for your brand. And we all did it because we were all in the same operating system. And within that operating system, we knew that division delivered identity, and identity delivered profits. The grandfather of all of these things, all this thinking, must be Apple. In the 80s, Apple declared war on IBM, and they labeled IBM as evil in corporate world. Steve sure knew how to fan the flames. He built an army of believers around him. And for some reason, for many companies, this thinking still seems self-evident, when in reality, it's a great misunderstanding. In the Nordic Business Forum in 2016, Steve's business partner from Pixar, Ed Catmull, told us that in fact, it was the flames that got Steve fired from Apple before he came to Pixar. And Ed Catmull also told that when Steve got fired from Apple, he then took the hero's journey. He lived, he learned, he changed, he set up his own family, found peace, and the flames died out. So eventually, when Steve returned to Apple, the Mac and the PC coexisted happily ever after. So what the story of Steve really tells us, it tells us that we can learn, we can change, and most importantly, we can reverse a development that is wrong. So now you may be asking, what are we supposed to do in a world like this? Well, the answer may not be what, but how to. I firmly believe that after all these flames, we have a common goal on how to be. The focus, it can no longer be on what divides us. It has to be on what unites us all. What I'm wishing for is a renaissance of trust. For any corporation wondering if people trust us, I have 3 questions. Imagine your customers or your employees, when they are looking at your companies, how is it that in their mind, they answer the questions, if you got to decide on your own, would you want good things for them? Or are you credible in what you do? Do you seem to have a realistic view of the world? And are your actions and tools, are they believable in this world? And most importantly, do you have any idea what is important to me and how I feel in this world? I feel that we are all here to serve the needs of others. But those needs have now changed. In the days of the flames, the great big fight on who's right, it was fought on the upper stages of the famous Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now the world has pushed us down the pyramid on much lower levels. And when we were tumbling down, I hope that we learned that it's not about who was right in the end, but that there won't be an end. When the fighting started, I felt that a lot of the anger we faced online, it was basically nostalgic pain over the loss of a common culture. Many of us felt that we had lost something that we all belonged to. But we haven't lost it. It has evolved. I mean, today we live in a world where when Netflix releases a new season of The Crown, it has to be translated to 160 different languages before it is released globally. A few years ago, under 1 week, the whole world went crazy over fidget spinners. Or last year, when Adele released her latest album, during 1 day, the whole world went on to Spotify to listen to that album. What I mean is, we are still together. Yeah, it's different, but it's real. It's not warm and fuzzy like it used to be. It's chaotic and complicated, but it is our common global culture. In times of crisis, we now see more clearly that our common culture, it's not about Netflix and fidget spinners, but it's about the shared belief in what is important. Peace, freedom, compassion, these are all words that sound a big bell globally around the world. And all of these words, they are basically about the same thing. People. Now you may ask, how can our company be trustworthy if we don't know what will happen in the future? But people are not stupid. In a world like this, they know that nobody knows. And in a market economy, they know that only profitable companies survive. Like the last time Sir Richard Branson visited us here in Pasila, he told us of the time when the Icelandic volcano erupted. Virgin had to let people go, and they made a promise. They made a promise that when the storm blows over, you will come back. And they took the people back. In a world like this, you must acknowledge the effect your actions as a leader and as a company have on others. Because unlike during the pandemic, there is no science that will back you up this time. There are only values. Sure, we've all made statements and strategies about corporate values. 9 times out of 10, it reads that we value our people. But there's also another saying that says, your values are only opinions until they cost you something. This is that moment. This is the moment when your corporate values will go through a trial by fire. Are they true or are they not? The best gift you can ever give to any of your employees is the privilege to work for a company that wants good things for them and for the world. If people acknowledge this privilege, that may provide for many the much needed motivation to work hard and work happy, even during these dark times. The best gift for you is knowing what to do and how to be for a better tomorrow. So my message to you today is what the almost legendary pop duo Climie Fisher sang in the 80s, saying, rise to the occasion. We will get through this situation. We need to be each other's inspiration. I'll rise to the occasion. Please do. We need you. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Petri Rajaniemi, for that very insightful and very inspiring speech. Thank you very, very much. I will now refresh my pad and see if I have a question for you from our audience. If not, I'm happy. There's so many things you brought up. Thank you for this, the much needed renaissance in trust that you mentioned. Very, very timely. Thank you ever so much for that great, for those great insights. Perhaps I would ask you the following question, using the same metaphor that you used in your presentation. How do you make values fireproof?
By living them true. I mean, we all know that. It's easy to promise things, but when it gets real, that's when you have to when you have to cash in what you promised. There's no shortcut over it.
I think that's exactly right. Thank you ever so much, Petri.